Hi friends, welcome back to Sew HoneyBee. I'm so happy that you took time out of your day to watch today's video. If you haven't done so already, I really encourage you to subscribe. And if you learned something from this video and would like to, give it a thumbs up. Doing that really encourages me and it gives me a boost to my day. Now in today's video, I will be doing another tutorial for Sophisticated Crafts Designs. And this one is for the Sassy Petite. Now this pattern comes in two different sizes. This one is for the petite. And although it's small, it still can fit quite a bit of stuff. I was really surprised. But it has a zipper pocket in the back and a 3D panel in the front. Now I will explain to you in detail how to do this front 3D panel so that it won't give you any problems. So don't let that stop you from getting this pattern. It's really quite easy. And then the gusset goes all along the top. Now if you want to, you can also make this into a crossbody bag by making a crossbody strap and then just attaching the lobster clasps to here. Another thing I like about this bag is that it takes so little hardware. Now inside this little bag, there are two slip pockets, as you can see, and a zipper pocket in the inside as well. Now this here is the petite size to this little bag, okay? And there is one that is a little bit bigger. Now there are so many variations and options that you can do with this bag that I know it's going to be one that you're going to want to make. Now in this tutorial, I have also added tester's tips. Now these are some of the details that my fellow testers did to help them make this little bag and other sophisticated bags as well. So I know you're not going to want to miss out on that. Now all those testers that gave a tip for this tutorial, I have put their name on the screen. You'll see it pop up. And then I will also add their name in the description below. Now all of these testers are on Sophisticated Crafts Designs Facebook group. And if it was provided, I added their social media links also to the description below. Well, I know you're going to want to make one of these. So let's get started. Okay, so now I'm going to start on step 3, which is our slip pocket. I have all 4 pieces. You should have 2 pieces of C, 2 lining pieces, and 2 pieces of E. So there's a total of 4. And I actually have those 4 here. I have a piece of waterproof canvas and a piece of canvas for both of these. And then I have a logo tag that says, "Made in a galaxy far, far away." So now I have my 4 pieces and my logo tag. Now place each of the slip pockets right sides together, clip across the top, and then sew across the top using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Don't forget to add your logo tag. Now turn the fabric right side out. Top stitch across the top. Now I'm going to baste around the perimeter using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. Now both slip pockets are complete. Okay, so I have all of my pieces here for my back panel. I have the slip pocket with my logo. I have my zipper that will fit my zipper pocket lining. Okay, I have my zipper pocket lining. Then I have my back panel. Now my back panel is my waterproof canvas and my exterior piece. And I made the mistake of adding my stabilizer to my exterior piece. You actually don't put the stabilizer on until after your pocket is sewn into here. Okay, but I went ahead and I did that already. So it'll be a little bit of a struggle, but I can do it. And I have also marked my zipper box on the back side, the wrong side of my lining. Okay. So the pieces that I need for my zipper pocket are my zipper pocket lining, my zipper, and then my lining piece. First of all, get the center of this, which I forgot to do. Okay. Now I want to place my lining to my zipper pocket to the lining of my bag. I want to place them right sides together and clip it across the top. Okay, just like that. As you can see, I have an arrow here. If your lining piece for your pocket is a directional fabric, you want to make sure that it is going upside down at this point. Mine isn't, and that's why I drew that, so I'd remember to explain it to you. Now I want to sew along the long edges of my zipper box and shorten my stitch length as well. This is actually an easier way to eliminate the puckers in your zipper edges. Now cut down the center and then cut at the triangles, but be careful not to snip into your threads. Okay, just like that. Now turn your lining to the right side. Now just continue to work your fabric until you're happy with where it's sitting. And go ahead and place the pins if your fabric will allow. Now she gives you a tip in the instructions on which way you want your zipper to close. Now if you want to wear the bag on your right shoulder, the zipper should close from right to left. If you are going to wear the bag on your left shoulder, the zipper should close from left to right. So make sure that you get the direction correct. Okay, now I'm going to wear this bag on my right shoulder because I'm right-handed. So I want my zipper to close from the right to the left. now I've got to change the pressure foot on my machine from a standard foot to a zipper foot. And I've also got to lengthen my stitch length back to a 5. Now before sewing my box, I've got to make sure that the zipper pull is in the center. Now I want to sew or top stitch at a 1/8 inch seam allowance all the way around. Okay, now I want to pull my stitches to the back and then tie them off. Okay, now my zipper's in there. So now I'm ready to close out my pocket. So now we're going to bring it to the top and clip the lining pieces together. Not the front panel, just the pocket lining pieces, because we're going to close out this pocket. Okay, so you can see my lining is out of the way. Now do the sides. Okay, now I want to show you something. You see my lining, how long it is? It's going all the way to the bottom. I don't want that. So I must have cut out my lining piece a little bit too long. So I'm going to sew all 4 sides of this lining pocket to make this pocket a little shorter, because I want to make sure it's not going to interfere with this seam when I go to bind it. So I'm just going to go ahead and sew this down the bottom, and then I'll trim it all away. Now I'm going to sew 3/8 on both sides and then 5/8 along the top and along the bottom. And I'm going to sew it with my panel right side up. And I'm going to actually go ahead and leave on my zipper foot because I've got to do the other zipper. But if you are only going to do one zipper and not put on the exterior zipper, you can switch it back out. And right here, I've caught that little triangle piece so that it gives it extra stability in these corners. Okay, just like that. And as you can see, I caught those little triangles on both sides. Now I want to trim down my pocket. And as you can see, I'm not cutting across those zipper teeth with my good scissors. I'll use my zipper scissors, which are also my paper scissors, for that section. Okay, and now because I cut across that zipper, I want to make sure that I singe it up really good. Now here's my pocket completely done. Okay, and now it should look like step number 8, which is out of this seam line right here. I think I might have to cut a little bit more off or make this pocket a little shorter to make sure that it's completely out of that seam line there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll be right back. Okay, that's much better. So I'm happy with that, and it does look like step number 8. Okay, now grab your slip pocket and put it onto the right side of the lining panel. Now I want both of these right side up. Now I'm not going to put the divider in here or baste along the outer rim until I put the zipper pocket in my exterior, so that I'm not having to switch back and forth my presser feet. So I'll do this at the same time as the other, okay? So let me put this aside. I'm going to skip down to step 10 and sew on the exterior zipper pocket. And then I'll go back up and we'll put on the slip pockets after I've switched back out to my standard presser foot. Okay, so we're going to do the exterior pocket the same exact way. Let me grab the good scissors to find my center. Okay, so now I want to put them right sides together. So my panel, my exterior panel is right side up. My zipper panel, or my zipper lining, is right side down. So they're right sides together. Okay, so now I want to clip across the top. And I've already drawn out my box. Hold my tails, drop my needle. And as you can see, I already put my stabilizer on, which is wrong. You put your stabilizer onto your exterior panel after your zipper pocket is already in there. So be sure to wait on that. Okay, now I want to cut down the center. Now yours should not be this difficult because you shouldn't have the stabilizer on here, okay? But I made that mistake, so I'm paying for it now. Okay, so I am going to use double stick tape to help me keep this in place because I cannot, I can't use pins with this vinyl. Okay, so that's on that side. Okay. Okay, now, yeah, I think I'm trying to make sure that I will be well below the 5/8 inch mark on the top because my seam allowance is going to be up here at a 5/8 inch seam allowance. Okay, just like that. I'm going to pull this one down a little bit more because I want very little of the red, if any, showing on the right side. Okay. Okay, so there is still a little bit showing, but I'm okay with that. Okay. Okay, now in step 10, she gives you instructions that your zipper should be closing the opposite way that your lining portion did. So my lining portion closed from right to left. So here I want my zipper to close from left to right because it is on the back side of the purse. So if you turn it going this way, which your purse would be on your hip this way, it is closing from right to left, okay? So be sure to make that note. Now I want to take off the glue, the double stick tape. And and as you can see on the outer portion, I'm using regular zipper pulls, but on the inside portion I used a star zipper pull. Okay, so now I'm ready to make sure everything is good. My zipper pull is in the center, it's closing from left to right, and everything's good on there. So now I can close out my box. Put my stitch length at a 5. And again, I'm not going to back stitch. I'm going to pull my threads to the back and then tie them off. And I really like using the zipper foot because it's so much easier. As you can see, I don't even have to move my zipper pull out of the way. 1, 2, 4. Now I want to close out my pocket the same way I did for my lining portion. And I want to be sure when I sew across here that I catch that little triangle there. And by doing that, it reinforces this edge here. Okay, so now there's our pocket complete. Now, if you are using stabilizer, this is where you put the stabilizer on. Okay, so you're gonna make sure that it's out of the seams. I marked, as you can see, right here. And I drew a line down here along the bottom, up here and here. And that is a 3/8 inch seam that we will be sewing our panel to. And I put the stabilizer right inside that seam allowance. So there's our exterior zipper pocket all complete. Now, if you're not using a fusible stabilizer, you're going to add your stabilizer in the next step. Okay, now I want to grab my other panel again and switch out my presser foot back to a standard presser foot. Okay, so now I have both panels, my exterior and my interior. I'm going to jump back to step 9 because I want to put a divider in this slip pocket. As you can see, I've clipped my slip pocket to my lining piece all the way around, and I've clipped my lining, my pocket, out of the way because I don't want to sew through this. So I've clipped it out of the way, and now I'm going to divide this slip pocket into 2. Okay, just like that. Now, I can remove my clips to my pocket. Now take the two panels and baste the exterior so that they become one. Now be sure to leave an opening to add the stabilizer if you didn't already. Now the back panel is done. Set it aside for now and let's go on to our front panel. Now we're doing the front panel, which is steps 13 through 21. So now grab your slip pocket, your main panel, both lining and exterior, and I've already placed the stabilizer on the exterior portion, the two side panels, and the linings. Now on step 13, you're going to add a logo tag right here to the center. So now we're on step 14. Okay, so now you want to add your stabilizer. If you can see, same way as I did before, I drew a line with my silver pin at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. And then I put the stabilizer on there. Now I want to show you something. You see how my line here is at 3/8? That's going to be my stitching line. The stabilizer is just inside that stitching line. We are not sewing on the stabilizer's edge, but on the stitching line. So make sure that it's centered in there. Okay, because I want to just about 3/16 to 1/8 of an inch that is not stabilized so that we get a nice soft edge in that seam. I did the same thing with my side panels. I marked 3/8 of an inch in from all of my corners. Then I put my stabilizer in the center, and you can see how the stabilizer does not go all the way to the seam line, okay? And you can see that down there too. I've also put a mark and clipped where that marking is on the bottom. Okay, putting those aside, I want to start off with these two pieces. Now I want to put the two panels wrong sides together and baste the exterior with 1/8 inch seam allowance so they become one. So now I have my exterior, my lining, and my stabilizer inside. Now remember, if you're not using a fusible stabilizer, leave one of the sides open, stick your stabilizer inside of there, and then close it off. Okay, so now we are on step 16. And this is where it could give you problems if you get these backwards. But don't let that worry you because she gives you every detail that you need. Now each pattern piece, which is pattern piece B, has its own pattern piece for the right and for the left. Now both of these edges along this side and this side are different. So you really need to make sure you've got the right side on the right side and the left side on the left side. She also gives you a marking to mark at the bottom. And you can see that marking isn't directly in the center. You will also notice that this edge has a curve to it, whereas this one is more straight. Now from the marking to the peak, you will notice there is a shorter distance on this side than on this side. So you really need to make sure that you get the right side on the right side and the left side on the left side, or else when you go and put this onto your gusset, you're not going to have enough room. So really be careful with that. The short side goes to our panel. So here I have the right side, and that is my short side, goes to this panel. Okay, so let me move those two aside right there. Move that one up there so that I don't get the lining pieces mixed up either. Now, here's the top portion of my panel and the bottom portion, okay? Now, I want to take that marking right there and I want to clip it right at that corner, Okay, you see how where my clipping is? And I want to clip it right there. Okay. Now I want to bend my panel towards me and continue to clip all the way to the top. Now there will be some easing that needs to be done. You see here how all of a sudden I'm getting wrinkles in there? That's being eased. Now that easing needs to happen because we are taking a rounded edge and sewing it to a straight edge. And there should only be 1/4 of an inch at the top. It's like a little dog ear right there. Okay, so ease this edge in there. Just like that. I want to snip 1/8 of an inch into both of these pieces. Okay, in between there. Just tiny little snips. Okay, so that'll help it to lay flatter. Now, I want to make sure that I have the little doggy ear at the top that is 1/4 of an inch, which I do. Now, I want to start sewing with my panel on the top, and I want it to be a basting stitch at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, and I'm going to grab my hemostat to help me out with this so that it lines up right where I want it. And see, I'm pushing here. So what it's doing is it's pushing my panel, this panel here, towards the back so I don't get any tucks. And I'm just going really slow. Okay, so now I want to roll this out and make sure that there are no tucks, okay? And this here should be straight. You shouldn't have this panel coming down or anything, but you should have a smooth transition from your front panel over to your side panel, okay? And that's just a basting stitch, okay? Now we're going to put in the real stitch, and that is, we are going to put our lining portion, doing the same exact thing, and we are going to put, let's see now. Now I want to make sure that my lining is with the right lining. As you can see, I had the wrong lining to the wrong portion, because see how here there's more of a curve on this side than this side? And the shorter distance is on the inside. So that has to go on this side. Now this one is a little bit harder, so let me put my snips in here. Okay. Now I want to put my lining piece to my lining piece, right sides together. Okay. I really like the way she did this, because this is normally, as a tailor, this is the way I do the linings in a jacket. And so I really like that she incorporated this into the pattern. Okay. So I want to make sure my bottom is clipped. Now I want to clip the top portion right where I want it so that it's lining up with the top lining. Clip it. And then I want to continue to clip in the center. Okay, just like that. Okay, so now I want to sew using a 3/8 inch seam allowance with my panel facing right side up. Okay, so now I'm going to manipulate my panel so I'm starting off on a straight edge. And let me mark. Now I've marked on my sewing plate at 3/8 of an inch because that's where I want this seam allowance to be. And so let me pull on that. Okay, so right there. Okay, now I'm manipulating my front panel out of the way so that I'm sewing on a straight edge, okay? Okay, so let's see how that came out. Let's fold this out. And we have a tester tip coming up to help you also on step 20, but I want to look at everything and make sure I'm happy with it before I clip or do anything further. Okay. So now, I really like the way that came out. Okay. And as you can see, my transition is going really a smooth transition from my front panel to my side panel right there, okay? Now, you know, with all of these tutorials, I always ask the testers if they have any tips that they would like to pass on to you that helped them to come out with the bags that you see on the website and on the pattern. So this is a tester tip from both Susi and JayMe. Now, you know that when a tip comes from two of the testers, you know it's a good one. So now that everything looks good, I'm happy with it. Now I'm ready to clip it. Now, both testers said that you could either use pinking shears to trim down this seam, or even if you don't have pinking shears, to just cut out little triangles along this seam here. Okay? So now that's what I'm going to do. Now you want to really make sure that everything looks good before you do this. Okay? Okay. Just like that. And again, if you don't have pinking shears, you can just take a very sharp pair of scissors and cut little triangles out. Just like that. But just be sure not to cut into your stitching line. Okay? So whether you use a sharp pair of scissors or a pair of pinking shears, that will help you with the bulk in this edge. So I was really happy that JayMe and Susi were able to help us out with that. And I've also added the links to their social media in the description below. So if you'd like to see some of the other bags that they make. Okay. Now, the secondary tip that they both gave was using a roller along this edge here. Okay. I do not have a roller. Now that is a tool that I am definitely going to get because so many people use that to help them. So instead of using the roller, I'll just use my finger for right now. But that is definitely a tool that I want to add to my toolbox. Okay, so now I'm going to get a few clips, line both my lining and my exterior up at the sides, and clip it. And if your seam allowance and your clipping and everything was correct, then it should all line up with itself. Both should line up with each other, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Just like that. That is my inside, and here's my outside. Okay, so now we're going to attach this side, which is our left side, onto our left side. Okay, again, the marking is right here where I've clipped it, and this is the shorter side, goes to our front panel. I have another tester tip for you on this side too as well. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to clip it in the same manner I did this side. Now you'll see here, see how that fold is right there? What I want to do is I want to distribute that fold. So I'm going to push down on it and see how some of the fold moves over. So I'm going to put a clip there. Like press that in there like that. And you see how that fold turned into two? I can put the clip in the middle. Now I'm going to do the same thing as I did before, and that is to put snips at those little points to where there's little folds where we're easing it in. If you have to put more than one clip, put more than one clip. You may be wondering, why don't I snip each panel individually, clip it on, and then it's already clipped? Well, the reason is because I want it to go in there and to ease it in there. And then I want those clips to be able to release the tension of those points. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and do this again. I want to really make sure I get that started right in that corner. And let me lengthen my stitch here. And so this is a basting stitch, so it's 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Let me move this stuff out of the way. Okay. Now when I come up to one of those little easing points, remember I'm pushing back on it so that the tension is released with those clips where I snipped the fabric. Now be careful also putting your fingers so close to the needle. Okay, so I want to push it out to the right side and just take a look at it. Now this isn't my final seam, but I want to look at it to make sure there are no tucks. Okay, like right there. Let me see if you can see this. Right here, I didn't get a tuck, but there's a little snip where I snipped it a little too far. Let me put this in here so you can see it. It is right there. Okay, it is right there. See how I snipped into both sides too far? But that's okay, because when I go and sew my final sewing at 3/8, it'll be okay. Now I want to go ahead and now I want to attach my lining piece in the same way I did the other side. And just manipulate your fabric so that you can ease all of that in there. So now we're going to sew using a 3/8 inch seam allowance. And I want to make sure that I really get those corners in there. So I'm going to put a clip down here to hold on to that, like that. Okay, because I can't put a clip here because that's where I'm sewing. So I put a clip over here to hold down my two pieces so that they don't move on me. So now I can release that clip. And now I want to do the same thing I did on this side. Remember the tester's tips to use a roller, or if you don't have a roller, to use your finger. Okay. Now this next tester tip came from Jenn, and it was amazing that so many tester's tips came from these two side panels, which is really helpful actually. I want to make sure my stabilizer doesn't fall off here. So let me get a little piece of double stick tape because I do not want to lose that or have it move. Okay. When I ironed the buckram or the stabilizer to my vinyl, I didn't leave it on for too long because, of course, I don't want to burn my vinyl. So now let me just put this stabilizer back where it's supposed to go. Okay. And you too can use double stick tape if your stabilizer starts moving. Now, back to the tester tip. Now, Jenn's tip was for you to roll out your side panel, okay? And finger press it or use a roller, just like our other tester's tips. Now, you see right there, there is a big fold right there, right? That's going to start really messing with this seam right here. Her tester tip is to identify where your major folds are, okay, just like that. I put a clip right there. Fold it back out. Move your lining and your exterior out of the way and put a snip there to eliminate that bulk. Okay, just like that. Let me go a little further. And remember, make sure you do not get into your stitching line. Okay. And what that does is, let me show you here, because that's a pretty big triangle we've taken out right there. You see that? But now, when we move this to go back, look at how that eased that point right there. You see how you no longer have that tuck there? That is really a good tip. I really like that tip too. Okay, so now let me show it to you closer. So remember, we had a huge tuck right there, but now look at that triangle that we snipped out of there, how it just tucks in there really good. So now we have this smooth transition right here. I really like that. Okay. And then she also said to use a roller as well. So now, when I fold it down, you see how we have another one right there? So I'm going to put a triangle, pinch it. She says to pinch it or to clip it. And put another one right there. Okay, so now, oh, that worked out really nice. Look at that. Yep. Okay, and so now I want to roll my edges out so that the lining and my exterior meet up with each other. And again, I know I did it right because I have a smooth transition from my front panel to my side panel right here. Okay, so there's my 3D panel. I really like those testers tips. Really helps me, and I know it'll help you too. Okay, so now let's go on to our next step. So now I am ready for my slip pocket. Okay, so now I want to put on my slip pocket to these edges. And now as you can see, your slip pocket should go right along with the curve. You see how that's curved in there? And so my slip pocket is following the curve of that 3D pocket. Okay, now on step 21, I'm going to baste all the way around. So I'll start right here on this side. And I really want to make sure my lining pieces are matching up with each other, my lining and exterior. And just manipulate or move your panel to do what you want it to do. So now our 3D front panel is complete, okay? And remember, you'll have a logo right here if you have one. And then our back panel is complete as well. So now I'm going to put these two aside, and now we're going to work on our side panels. Okay, so this is all of the pieces that I need to do my gusset. I have my 2 rectangle rings. Now, I wanted to share with you that I didn't have rectangle rings in this size. So these were actually the sliders, and I just removed that center piece. So I have 2 of those, and that goes with my handle. The handle doesn't have any stabilizer, but I have put a piece of double stick tape down the center. Then I have my base, exterior and lining, and I've marked 3/8 of an inch on this side, and I have put my stabilizer right inside of there. And I've also put stabilizer at my base, the center part. Okay, so I found my center and put that stabilizer piece on top of the other stabilizer. Then I have my zipper with 2 zipper pulls, and then both sides of my top gusset. Then I have 2 connectors. Now you will notice that I've used the nap of this fabric or this vinyl because all of the main alligator is all going down the center. So when you look at this bag, here's my 3D panel. My gusset here will have alligator, and the alligator will go all the way down to the bottom and all around way to the sides. So when I cut all of these pieces, I made sure that the alligator panel was right in the center of all of my pieces. And I did that same thing to my gusset, my handle, and everything. But now on the side connectors, you'll notice that it's not like that. This one actually goes like this. Okay, you will notice that I cut it out this way. And it is because it's going to be on the side over here. It's not going to be in the center. Those side connectors are going to be on the sides of over here. Okay, so you'll want to make sure that you take note of where your pieces are going to be if you have a vinyl or a fabric that has a nap or has something that is going down along the center. So now, and I've also put double stick tape on the back center of these ones. And on these, I have marked where my 1/4 inch seam allowance is, because this is the side that's going to be attached to the zipper. So I've got a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then I put my stabilizer there. And the same thing here, a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and there's my stabilizer. So I want to make sure that the zipper side goes with the zipper. Okay, and then I showed you that one, and then this one doesn't have any stabilizer. Okay, so those are all the pieces and all set up. Now we can go over to step 22, which is doing our connector tabs. So let me move these out of the way, and here's our connector tabs. Now I want to remove the double stick tape and fold the long edges into the center. Okay, now I want to make sure that they're going to fit with my 1-inch ring, and they do, so that's really good. So now I want to set these aside for right now, and I want to get my grab handle, and now I want to cut my double stick tape shorter on each end. So I want to remove some of this off of here. Okay, so now I want to remove the double stick tape, put these into the center as well. I'll just unstick that side when I get over to that side to put on, to do that seam. Okay, now I want to get my strap connectors, and I want to put them on in the center. And you see how there's a seam there? That's where the connectors put together. I want to make sure that that seam is on the wrong side on here, okay? So that you see the good side and the good side on this side. Now I want to bring both of these together. This is why we weren't going to put the double stick tape all the way to the end, because we have to sew this right here. So let me open it out. Now I want to sew this using a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Okay, now open out that seam to reduce the bulk, and then now finish off by putting tabs into the center. So now I want to find the center on this side. Let me just put a little mark right here. Okay, so right there's my center, and I want to meet that up with the seam at the bottom. Okay, right there. Oh, well, wait. I almost did this backwards. Make sure that your seam is in the inside and they meet up with each other like that. Okay, so you should be looking at the good side on the exterior. So you can see that's the good side, and then the seam where we put it together is on the inside. Okay, so now I'm gonna move my connectors out to the edge, put a clip. Okay, just like that, and that's going to be our handle. Okay, so now I want to mark 1 inch from each side. So I've put my marking here and here of where I want to start and stop. So I'm going to stitch my 2 long sides and this right here. Okay, so now let me start. Let me move this over. Okay. Move this over. Now, if you think that your machine may have difficulty going over this seam, you can reduce the bulk on your seam allowances before you do that stitching. Okay, so there's my handle complete. I'll put that aside. And now I want to go into step 26, so I need my connectors again. Let me press them. Okay. Okay, so now I want to reduce the bulk here at this edge. So let me grab my scissors, pull this back, and reduce some of this bulk, making sure you do not go too far into that edge. Okay, so just like that. And let me do the same thing to this one. Okay, now on number 26, she gives you a marking, okay, a measurement. So you'll want to mark that measurement from this edge to that length that she gives you. And you want it to be on the edge that you cut off, okay? So you can see here, I did that on both of those. Okay, now I want to cut a piece of double stick tape. And I want to place it above that mark that we just measured out. Now I want to put the connector with the V that we cut out on this side. I want to remove the double stick tape and then fold this down so that edge meets our marking right there. Okay, so let me move this edge in a little bit. Okay, right there. Now, you can see I've had to move in this edge just a hair so that it doesn't show from this side, okay? So I want to do the same thing on this side. Put this in here. Okay, so your piece should look just like this. Okay, so now I want to get piece F, the top. Now she gives you an important note on step 27. Now you can skip it if you're using a stabilizer, but if you're using Decaville Heavy on this section here, you can put a strip of Decaville or Peltex right in here. What that is going to do is when we sew this onto here, what it's going to do is it stabilizes this from tearing out of our vinyl. As you can see, I've added my stabilizer to this, and I added it just inside of the 1/4 inch seam allowance, because that seam allowance there is where we're going to attach our zipper. So I want to make sure I sew the right side to my zipper. Then I took the measurement that she has in step number 26 and I marked that measurement right here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little snip in that measurement, because that is where our strap is going to go. Okay, so now our handle, our piece is this way, okay? This is the short side that is going to go with our zipper, okay? And I've snipped my edges, so now I want my handle or my connector to go above that snip right there. So let me pin it. Then I want to go to this side and do the same thing. Find where I snipped it, right there, and I want to go above that snip. Oh, but first of all, I want to make sure I'm putting it on, going, oh, that was on me. Okay, make sure you don't do this. See this side? I did it going the right way. My raw edges are on this side, okay? My raw edges or my wrong edges on this side of the handle. But look at what I did on this side. I put it on with my raw edges going up. So make sure you put it on the right side because this double stick tape It is wonderful for this, but it's awful to try and take it off. Okay, so now this is the right side, this is the right side. So this needs to go in going this way. Let me move that. Okay. So now when I take a look at it, I've got my right side, and my right side. Handle, or my connector, above that there. So see, there's the snip. There's the short side that's going to be attached to my zipper. Now I want to do the same thing to this side. Okay. So now, if you want, you can cut another piece of double stick tape and put it under here to keep this in place. I'll just really make sure my bottom edge is in there really good before I stitch it. Okay, so now I'm going to top stitch this connector on here, starting at the bottom. Okay, here I want to really make sure that before I go over this, that the bottom portion is tucked in, because I don't want the bottom raw edge to be seen from the top side. Okay. And same thing on this side. I'm going to lift up on the top edge. Let me see. I feel I could do this easier with my finger. Like that. Okay. Now I want to use the hump jumper back here so I don't damage this. If you don't have a hump jumper, you can use a piece of vinyl or anything that you want to, so that you can put back here so it doesn't damage your vinyl or your material or your hardware. Okay, just like that. Okay, there's my handle. Okay, and it's on there really good. Now, you can put rivets right here if you want to. Lately, I've been seeing rivets that are like little rhinestones. That would be so pretty to put those little rivets. I'm gonna have to get some and try them out. Now, this next tester's tip comes from Breana. Now, when she cuts her zipper, she cuts it a little bit larger or a little longer, and that is so that she can put the zipper pulls completely off the zipper. Let me show you here. Okay, so now here is where, oh, I just unthreaded my machine. Here is where we are going to put our zipper on this section. You see how there's a small area here between the stabilizer and the end, and this one's a larger one? This is the side we're going to put our zipper, because that's 1/4 of an inch there. So now Breana's tip is that she puts a clip at the end of her zipper pulls and then pulls her zipper pulls all the way to the edge. Okay, so that when she goes to sew on her zipper to her panel, the zipper pulls are completely out of the way. So it gives it a so much easier and cleaner area to do your zippers. So now I'm going to get my zipper, clip it right sides together with my panel. I really like that tip because for those of you who have watched my videos, you know I'm trying to pick up as many tips as I can to get better at doing my zippers. Baste it using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. Okay, now I want to grab my lining piece to my top, matching up both ends, and clip it across the top. Okay, and I'm going to change back out to my zipper foot. So using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, now finger press it in place. And then bring it over to the other side and clip it. Okay, this is something where a roller would come really in handy again. I'm going to have to definitely get myself one of those rollers. Okay, so now that looks good on that side. Let me move it over here. So now I want to baste the 3 sides on this side and top stitch this here. And you know, this tip is really coming in handy. Nesting back here. Forgot to hang on to my threads to start off with. Okay, now we're on step 33 and we're ready to put the other side on here. Okay, and again, I put my stabilizer 1/4 inch away from this edge, so I want to make sure this is the side that the zipper goes on. And then this is going to be for my gusset, okay? For my panel, I mean. Okay, so let me line these up, right sides together with my zipper. And then I'll sew this side on and my lining on the same way I did this side. Okay, now I'm ready to change back to my standard zipper foot, or my standard presser foot. I just want to remind you that if you are using stabilizer, remember to put it in there before you sew up or baste all the edges together, okay? So now I'm ready to put my base gusset on. Okay, so I am on step 36. And now remember, if you are using a directional fabric, on step 36 she tells you which way your fabric should be going, okay? So be sure to take note of that if you are. So now I want to match up my two ends. Okay, now this is another tester's tip from Breana. And hers is, if you are using a domestic machine, to take the tester sample or the test that you do in the beginning of the pattern to make sure that your machine will be able to go through all the layers, save that little piece. If you do not have a hump jumper, when you're going across this seam here, which is going to be 6 layers, you can use that tester piece as a hump jumper to help you get over this area here without skipping any stitches. So that's a really good tester's tip as well. So now I want to really be careful here with my seam to make sure that I get this seam right, because if your seam allowance isn't correct here, your gusset size will be too big or too small to go on your panels. So this seam allowance is 3/8 and we are on step 37. Okay, so now I've got my lining piece to my lining piece and my exterior to my exterior. So now I'm going to sew it using a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Okay, now I want to turn this out. You know what? Before I turn this out, I'm going to trim up my edges right here, making sure that I'm not going to clip into my threads, my stitches, with a very short pair of scissors. Okay, now I'm going to turn this out. It looks like my lining is just a little bit larger or wider than my exterior, but that's okay because my exterior is lining up right with the front there, so that's fine. Okay. So now I'm going to sew the circumference of the bottom and top stitch across here. So I'm going to top stitch, sew all the way down, top stitch, and then sew all the way back over here. Okay, so let me turn it this way. That'll be easier. Okay. Let me make sure you can see what I'm doing. Okay, now this is very, very bulky here. So this is probably going to be the thickest portion of this whole bag. Now, if you feel that your machine isn't going to go over this to top stitch it, you could put 1 or 2 rivets in here, okay? Or at least use your hump jumper. trying not to. Okay, that looks really good. Now I'm going to trim down this extra here because I really want to make sure that all of my pieces are one size. Okay, so now my panel is all one size. It looks good. So now I want to mark all my center points. So now you have a wider side or a larger side with your handle, okay? And then you have this small side here, and then your zipper. This small side is where your 3D panel is going to go. So I want to turn this way. Okay, so here's my smaller side. That's the side that does not have the handle. So here's my 3D panel. So I want to clip off my dog ears right here. Okay, so now I want to match them up right sides together. So here's my short side. I want to match it up with the top So this goes right in here. Put 2 clips at the top. Then come down here, find my snip, which is right below my slip pocket, and that goes for that side seam right there. So let me put 2 clips right here. Now I wanted to get my other end. Okay, so that when you're looking at it like this, you're looking at your 3D panel and your handle is on this side. Okay, so if you've got it right, then go ahead and clip that all the way around. Now we have 2 more tester's tips here. Now Emma's suggestion is to open out your zipper when sewing on both of these panels. It's less bulk along the top to deal with. And then Thien, her tester tip is to use a hemostat, especially when going around these corners. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and take off the 2 sides because I don't think that those seams are the center. So I'm going to go ahead and clip it all the way around. Oh, my clip. I have a little bit of easing in here that I'm going to have to do, but that's where the hemostat is really going to come in handy. Now, because the bottom is so flat, that's where I'm going to start. Okay, so now I want to sew with the front panel lining facing up, which is like this, and sew with the 3/8 inch seam allowance. And she gives you an option to sew with either a 3/8 or a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, so I'm going to go all the way around. And just keep manipulating your fabric to stay in that seam allowance. Okay, everything looks really good. I'm really happy with it. So now we'll do the other side. So now top to top, bottom to bottom. Okay, so now I have my 2 bias tape strips for each side, and they are long enough. So now I want to start at the bottom and clip it all the way around, and then sew on the binding. Okay, now do the other side the same way, starting at the bottom. Now, I really like the way this little bag came out. With all the tester's tips and everything, I know you'll be able to make one of these. And I hope you will. Okay, until next time, I'll talk to you later. Bye.